Welcome to Toastmaster Time, the show that has everybody talking. I'm your host for this edition of Toastmaster Time. My name is Ashley Harkness, and with me is our own evaluator, James Jeffley. James, what kind of a program do we have for this event?
We've got a great program lined up for our viewers today, Ashley. We've got 3 experienced Toastmasters. We've got Tim Fisher, who's playing a mad scientist, sort of. We've got Yvonne Burgess, who's going to dazzle us with her beauty and charm. And later on, we've got Sharon Brown, who's going to tell us a very moving story.
Great. Thank you very much. I'll be hearing from you and having your comments later on. But right now, let's talk to our guests. Welcome, Yvonne. Welcome, Tim. Welcome to Toastmaster Time.
Thank you.
So tell me, how long have you been in Toastmasters?
Oh, just about a year.
Just about a year. And Tim, how about yourself?
I think I'm probably reaching about 2 years now.
Okay, that's good. Not too big of a reach, right?
Not too big a reach.
So what has been the big benefit for you for Toastmasters?
Well, for me, I'm actually getting up in front of people and doing what I call stand and deliver.
Right.
And I'm speaking about my own stories and things that are important to me.
It's very comfortable doing that, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if it's comfortable, but it's certainly challenging and enlightening, and I feel very much appreciative of the opportunity.
Excellent, excellent. That's a good thing from Toastmasters. Tim, how about yourself? What brought you to Toastmasters?
What brought me was some friends who said, oh, you really ought to give this a shot. And I took to it right away, and what I found to be the most benefit for me is increased creativity.
Ah, okay, that's wonderful. That's really great. Well, are you prepared and ready to go?
We're ready.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to do that. And while that's happening, I'm going to talk to our Toastmaster audience, and we're going to say, okay, Toastmasters is an international organization devoted to helping people overcome their fear of public speaking and also to help with the idea of leadership. They go hand in hand. There are Toastmaster clubs everywhere in the United States. In fact, they're mostly all over the world. There's about 300,000 Toastmasters. And I would say that you might find this very interesting. One of the hallmarks of Toastmasters is that when a person gives a presentation, we have an immediate feedback evaluation to assist them with their goals. To help with that, we have our own evaluator, James Jeffley. James, thanks for being here. Yes, of course. So what is the goal of our 2 presenters right now?
We have 2 presenters, Tim Fisher and Yvonne Burgess, and they're doing different speeches. Tim is working on a speech from the Advanced Communicator Manual about speaking humorously, and his whole goal is to make us laugh. So there should be a funny story at the beginning and the end, and some jokes in between. Yvonne is working on a vocal variety speech from the Competent Communicator Manual, and what I'm looking for from her is variation in volume, tone, pitch, rate, and inflection. She should draw us in with her voice.
Very clear goals. I think we will be very well entertained and educated. So thank you very much for your comments. We'll talk to you later. It's time to hear from our presenters with their presentation, Positivity Hour. Positivity Hour.
Greetings, everyone out there in Toastmaster Time TV land. I'm Tim, Professor Positivity. We figure everyday life stresses might be getting to you and catching up with you at some point. So today, we're going to learn some tools and tips for maintaining a positive attitude in life. But first, allow me to introduce to you my co-host, really the star of the show, the one, the only, the very talented and beautiful Miss Yvonne. Come on out here, you gorgeous woman. Hi, Yvonne. Tell us, how are you feeling right about now in front of all these toasties in TV land?
Well, Tim, I'm just so excited to be here. I'm delighted that you invited me. And I guess I'm just going to have to say it. I'm just at the intersection of my skill set and the challenge of my debut on Toastmasters Time TV. You know, skill set, challenge. Skill set, challenge. You know, I don't have to tell you that using your well-honed skills steeped in a challenge puts you right into the flow. I am so excited. Don't you feel just about the same?
I am so in the flow right about now, and I am feeling great. When I look at you, all I see is positivity. I mean, what I'm so impressed with you right now is your flaming magenta ball gown. Va, 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 boom. I mean, who comes to a Toastmasters Time TV taping wearing what you've got on? And may I say, you look absolutely fabulous.
Well, thanks for noticing, Tim. You know, when I go into my boudoir, I start actually pulling my look together for the day with a self check-in on my negative bias. Did you know that being human is just to be consumed 2/3 with a negative thoughts? It's just the way we're wired.
Now, don't go all negative on me.
Oh, please, my check-in is all positive.
Really? Tell me more.
Okay, so let's see. You know how much I love fashion. And when I look at all my beautiful clothes, I'm just overcome with a feeling of like I'm just so excited and grateful to have just a fabulous wardrobe.
Check. That is gratitude. Being thankful for all the good in our lives and grateful for everything we have.
Yes.
What else goes on in your boudoir?
Well, when I'm pulling my look together for the day, let's see, I also think about times I've spent with people and things that we did and what I was wearing during the time. Like that time when I was decked head to toe in purple and my boyfriend showed up with the tickets to Paris. What a total trip that was.
I'm going to have to say, that is savoring. Remembering the special places and the people that made us feel good helps us to keep plugged in to the positive.
Oh, you know, there's something that I never tried to do, and that is to compare my fashion look to anyone else. You know, I love decorated women. We're just walking pieces of art, but I have my very own distinctive sartorial splendor.
I'm going to have to say, that is avoiding social comparison. That's great, because you are smoking hot in that ball gown and totally incomparable IMHO. Altogether, there are 12 identified positive boosting activities that we can engage in. Nurturing social relationships, avoiding social comparison, committing to our goals, learning to forgive, and on and on. But let's ramp it up a notch. How would you feel if we did an exercise for our Toastmaster peeps?
What did you have in mind?
How about you twirl in your gown while singing a joyful little tune?
Oh, no, I mean, these heels are kind of high and the dress is really tight and there's all these cables around with the TV. I don't think I can do it.
I think you might be suffering from a fixed mindset. That is, not being willing to try. Let's give it a shot. Here, take my hand.
Really?
Take my hand. I'm going to help you. And we're going to sing a little ditty that I think you already know.
Cultivating optimism, practicing acts of kindness, nurturing social relationships, developing strategies for coping, learning to forgive, increasing flow experiences, taking care of your body like meditation and physical activity,
Gratitude, savoring, avoiding social comparison, committing to your goals, practicing religion and spirituality. See, I knew you could do it. All you needed was someone to boost your confidence and your willingness to try. That is the idea that I can't, your negative mindset, and taking a chance and making it happen.
Well, you know what? I think I heard about that at a speech at the Lakeview Toastmasters in Oakland, California. They talked about a growth mindset. Trying helps you learn, and learning boosts your confidence, and with confidence you can do anything in the world.
I think you might have created some new neural pathways with that exercise. Folks, Remember, maintaining a positive attitude is your responsibility. Why not take some of these tips and tools home to your friends and family and try them out? You see how well they worked for my friend, Miss Yvonne here. Hey you, any final comments?
Oh, I'm feeling the love, and I will always savor this special day.
And with that, we're going to wrap it up. But finally, a big kiss to this courageous, beautiful woman, Miss Yvonne, and yours truly.
All right. Well, James, what do you think about their presentation?
That was a lot of fun. You know, it was great seeing both of them work together in the spirit of collaboration to bring two different yet related topics to bear here. Tim's whole thing was about working on humor, and Yvonne's was about using her voice, and I thought they both did that very well. I loved Tim's use of the wig and the lab coat, the staging, Yvonne's hair color and the dress. So using costumes to great effect to help accentuate their key messages. I think Yvonne did great with her vocal variety, with the pitch, the inflection. She used a character voice throughout.
A lot of gestures, too.
A lot of gestures, facial expressions.
Yes.
They were really incorporating a lot of things that you learn in advanced manuals throughout Toastmasters. Not just humor and voice, but also body language, gestures, costumes, props, etc.
Excellent.
And those are things that sometimes we use out in the real world when we're giving presentations in business to liven them up, to bring our audience in. And I really appreciated them adding so much content.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your evaluation. And it's time for us to say it's time for Toastmaster time to take a break. We'll be right back.
Name an effective political leader in history who couldn't speak well.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
There aren't any.
Because when it comes to a disease,
Freedom requires leadership, and leadership requires oratory. You have to speak to be heard.
I have a dream.
It's all about personal growth and guts.
Never give in. Never, never, never.
Welcome back to Toastmaster Time, the show that has everyone talking. With me is our guest speaker, Sharon Brown. Sharon, welcome to Toastmaster Time.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm glad you're here. This is not the first time you've been on the show, is it?
My second time being here.
Excellent.
I had fun the first time. I thought I would come back.
I'm glad you did. I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. Tell me, you're involved in what club?
Lakeview Toastmasters Club. We meet on Thursdays mornings at 7 o'clock every week.
How long have you been in Toastmasters?
Since 2002, but an active member since 2012.
Has it helped you in your personal and business life?
It's helped me to communicate much better with my spouse, for one thing. I'm a better listener. And my leadership skills have increased where I'm just a better listener and a better coordinator, and I think overall a better leader.
As a matter of fact, you've taken on a leadership position with the Toastmasters D57 district.
Yes.
You're
yes,
the administrator?
Yes, administrative manager.
That's a very important role to keep everybody going and keep everybody straight.
That's true.
Congratulations on your having done that.
It's been a lot of fun.
It's interesting that you comment that your leadership skills and your communication skills appear to go hand in hand.
They do.
They do. Well, I have a question for you. Are you ready to give your presentation?
Yes, I am.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to get to your spot, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to talk to the Toastmaster audience and tell them a little bit more about Toastmastering. Well, Toastmasters is a very, very prestigious organization in leadership. When I joined Toastmasters, it was because I knew that I needed to improve my speaking skills. And the man who got me involved in it said, this is where you need to go. And right now, I actually make a living doing presentations, which is a key part to it. When you're interested in Toastmasters, you just need to go to toastmastersinternational.org, and it will tell you everything you need to know about that. It's a great organization and ready to go. And I'm ready to go with our evaluator. And tell us, James. Got it this time.
You got it this time.
Okay. What is Sharon's goals for this presentation?
Sharon is working from the Competent Communicator Manual on project number 2, which is organizing your speech. And what we're looking for is an appropriate outline, something that's easy to follow. We want to hear a clear message with supporting material, appropriate transitions between key thoughts or segments, a strong opening, as well as a strong conclusion.
Okay, we'll be looking for that. So let's hear from our presenter. Let's hear Sharon Brown with her speech, Promises, A Family History.
Lussie was getting ready for bed. As she was putting on her nightgown, she felt warm liquid running down her leg. And she knew it was time for her baby, her first baby, to be born. The Alford plantation owner was called Barry Alford. They called him Little Barry, his wife Mary, and they had 2 sons, Solomon and Monroe. This was the mid-19th century in Mississippi, and for a slave girl like Lussie, having a baby was mixed with emotions. She knew that plantation owners were known to sell slave babies to the highest bidder, and she was afraid this could happen to her baby. Lussie's best friend came that night to help deliver little Matilda. Little Matilda was wrapped in a blanket and laid next to Lussie so she can touch all of her fingers and toes, and she cherished every moment that they could spend together. Little Matilda was so precious. But early that next morning, bam! The door opened and in swooped Mary, the plantation owner's wife, and she took Matilda. Lussie cried out, but on deaf ears. She knew it was going to take all of her strength to get down to the kitchen to make coffee. She still had to make coffee for the master. She listened in the hallways for her baby, but she didn't hear a sound. Solomon came in to get his coffee, and while stirring his coffee, sugar, and cream very slowly, he leaned over Lussie. She sure is a pretty little thing. What we gonna name her? Well, Lussie broke down crying, "Please, Master Solomon, don't sell Matilda." And Solomon was taken aback. And he leaned to her. He looked at her with his deep blue eyes. "Ain't nobody gonna take my children. I promise you that." Soon after, Lussie had more children for Solomon, Matthew and Mary, who was named after the missus of the house. Matilda, Matthew, and Mary were the heartbeat of the Alford household. They went to church with the Alfords every Sunday. And when they came home from church, Lussie was so grateful to spend time with her children, she would have a beautiful supper waiting for them. 1861 marked the beginning of the Civil War. Solomon and his brother Matthew joined the Confederate Army. Many of the slaves had already left, leaving Little Barry, Mary, and a handful of slaves on the plantation, including Lussie. Solomon made Lussie promise not to leave with his children, that he would return. The Confederates lost the war. Abraham Lincoln was elected president and issued the final Emancipation Proclamation. Lussie and her children were finally free, but she kept her promise to Solomon and stayed on the plantation. Solomon survived the war, even though Monroe was killed in battle. And Solomon came home and took over the plantation responsibilities because his father, Little Barry, was a broken man. Solomon kept his promise to Lussie, too, and cared for and provided and protected for all of their children. And they soon added more children to the family: Rosalie, Lafayette, and Major. They were all part of the Alford family now. Even though the slaves were now free, there was a growing group of white men called the Ku Klux Klan that were brutalizing the freed slaves. They wanted to keep things the way they used to be. They increasingly brutalized the freed slaves by beating them and sometimes lynching them when they tried to be good citizens. You wouldn't know it, but it was also dangerous to leave Mississippi. Lucy soon passed away, and Solomon's health was very, very weak. He had to figure out a way to get his now grown children out of Mississippi, and he had an idea. He would save large sums of money, and he would give it to the youngest son, because the old ways was the elder would give funds to the eldest son, but he thought he would give it to the youngest son. Well, the white relatives of the Alford family got wind that Solomon's funds were getting depleted, and they descended on the oldest son's house looking for the money, and that was Matthew. He had no idea what they were talking about, but that didn't stop them from ransacking Matthew's house looking for the money. Solomon was successful at getting all of his children out of Mississippi, except for Mary and Matilda, who decided to stay, and Solomon also stayed in Mississippi. And when he died, he was buried right next to Lucy. Lucy and Solomon's children ended up settling in the Oklahoma territories. Major, he was the baby, ended up receiving a medical degree in pharmacology, and this was in 1908. Many of Matthew's children and Lafayette's children became doctors, lawyers, preachers, and teachers. And sometimes they kept in touch with their white Alford families in Mississippi. When I was 4 years old, I met my great-great-grandfather, Matthew. I remember him because he had one blue eye and one white eye, and they said he lost his eye in a shootout. But he used to smoke this sweet-smelling pipe anytime he told stories, and I wanted a puff. And I asked him, "Grandpa, can I have a puff?" And he said yes. So I hopped on his knee and I snatched that pipe and I took a couple of puffs. All of a sudden I got dizzy, my stomach started churning, my head spinning, and I ran outside and I got sick right on the front lawn. I never asked for a puff again. But I want to say to you, these stories come to life. Find out what your heritage is. With technology now, there's no reason to keep our stories of our family history in the dark. Bring it to the light.
Very, very moving tale.
Indeed.
Indeed.
You know, when we talk about organizing your speech, usually people talk about the 3 tell-ems. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them.
Yes.
Or we think about how we learned how to write book reports. There's a beginning, there's a thesis, 2 or 3 points, a summary, and a conclusion. Mm-hmm. What Sharon did was illustrate another extremely powerful way of organizing a speech, and that's through telling a story. Mm-hmm. A story is a worldwide thing. I don't care where you were born in the world, you grew up with stories.
Yes.
And a story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and we got that organizational structure through the story of the Alford family. Mm-hmm. From the birth of the child to their children, through the Civil War, their children's children.
Chronological then.
Chronological, right, all the way up to Sharon telling her part of that. Mm-hmm. So it was very easy to follow, and I love the message at the end about learn your history and don't keep that in the dark, bring it to light.
I understand. Very good, very good. Thank you very much for that evaluation. Oh, and it's time for another break. We'll be right back with Toastmaster Time.
Name an effective political leader in history who couldn't speak well.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
There aren't any.
Because when it comes to a disease,
Freedom requires leadership, and leadership requires oratory. You have to speak to be heard.
I have a dream.
It's all about personal growth and guts.
Never give in. Never, never, never.
Welcome back to Toastmaster Time, the show that has everybody talking. And right now I'm here with James Jeffley, our evaluator, talking about our speeches tonight. James, we heard 3 very, very different speeches from a whole different point of view and lots of things. What would your comments be on that?
I think for the viewers, it's important to look at the variety that they had and the different ways that the speakers had of connecting with the audience and getting a message across.
Yes.
Through storytelling, through the use of costumes, props, vocal variety, as well as humor. There are times when we have a message to convey and there isn't one right way to do it. And we have this wide palette of colors, if you will, available to paint the picture of our message depending on our topic and our audience.
So we had a story. We also had basically an impromptu presentation by Tim, essentially that's what it sounded like, and then a very polished vocal variety presentation.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it worked out very, very well. So, you know, it's great, but it's time for us to think about that the show is coming to an end today.
Aww.
So I'm sorry, but we're going to wrap it up here. I want to talk to you a little bit about the fact that we want to thank everybody from the Palo Alto Media Center for their support. James Jeffley, our evaluator, thank you very much. And welcome anyone who wishes to come and visit and be part of Toastmaster Time Television. We are found on the internet at toastmastertime.com. More about the District 57 at d57.org. And for people who have questions about Toastmasters, there's also the International Toastmasters website, toastmasters.org. Now, for all of the staff and the members and the crew here at Palo Alto at the Media Center, I want to thank you, the audience, for coming and joining with us, James and myself and everybody else and our speakers tonight, Tim and Yvonne and Sharon, and wish you all the best and happy Toastmastering, the place where everyone is talking.